psychopath Democrat, the mentally ill single woman at home on 15 anti-anxiety medications, sits there and looks at all her cats and says, oh my God, Trump's never going to leave. She believes it. The mentally ill single woman is the beating heart of the Democrat Party. Everyone listening or watching right now knows a woman in their life. Her eyes are half bugged out of her skull. She ruins Thanksgiving every time, bragging about her 15th abortion. Everyone knows a woman like this. I know you're laughing because I know you do, Megan. Everyone knows one. I can think of her right now. I can picture her in my mind. I wonder if she's seen that clip yet. Anyway, joining me now, Jennifer Galardi, culture, health, and policy writer. And in fact, we had her on before, and we had her on to talk about the awesome piece that she wrote. We never even freaking got to it last time. She wrote a piece called Hell Hath No Fury Like a Single Liberal Woman. That's such a great headline. Jennifer, what are you talking about in there?
Oh, I think they're very upset. They're very angry. And, to be a little compassionate,
Why?
I try not. Why are they angry? Well, they've been kind of sold a bill of goods, I think, with the feminist movement. I know I was. It is a little bit of cultish. The tactics are like a cult, I think, on the progressive left. They kind of dismantle, we know that word, what did they call it with religion, where you have to disassemble and question everything, which is good, but the rebuilding phase is not so great. So they kind of pull you away from family. They dig up trauma or any kind of your past that may disaffect you from your family. And then they instill these other values that I believe are anti-family, anti-Western, anti-Christian. And I see we're seeing that play out. I think what we're seeing on college campuses, we see many of these young students are women who have been brainwashed, and some of them don't even know what they're arguing for, right? We've seen that clip of the two girls going, do you actually know what this is about? And she's like, no, I don't. I think I need to do my research. You're like, yeah, you need to do your research. You need to know if you're going to be violent and angry, what you're violent and angry about. But I also think what I see in their eyes and their soul, somebody has ripped their soul out of their body is what it looks like to me. And I see that with a lot of these women. They're kind of, I don't know, they're lost and they're looking. And so they get trapped into this, they fall into this trap of the progressive kind of cult movement, and they get retrained to, I think, hate their bodies in a way, their own biology, the thing that makes them a woman, the beautiful thing that makes them a woman, whether they choose to go down that path or not, which is procreation. We see our own administration kind of vilifying that by saying, well, it doesn't really matter. We're going to allow men in your locker room. We don't care what you think.
Do you get the strain that they hate their country as well? Because obviously we know how it manifests. It manifests itself. They turn out to be loyal little street communists who go throw poop on people and do the things that Democrats want them to do. But is there an anti-America thing, or is it just anti-family, anti-men? What do they hate?
I think you can't separate those two. I think there's part of it is a self-hatred that gets projected out onto the world. And then they've been given someone to blame, which is typically white men. Right? This is the reason for your problems. You're pushed down. You don't get an opportunity. The glass ceiling is real. And I mean, I get that conversation maybe 60 years ago, but women are in the workforce and they take prominent spots in medical schools. I don't see it as still a valid argument. And so now I find women just want something to whine about a lot of the times. And the left gives them a good excuse. Oh, it's the patriarchy. It is toxic masculinity. Look at all these examples of the Harvey Weinstein. Sure, of course, there's always going to be bad men. But as a whole, we are not a bad country. Men aren't terrible. Who's going to build the roads? You want to go do it? You want women? You want to go down in the streets and in the manholes and do all that kind of work? I mean, Camille Paglia is such a good, wonderful academic mind in this space who is pretty asexual. I think if she's not a lesbian, it has nothing to do with her sex. She just sees common sense and the writing on the wall. But again, the left they're angry about their own life, and then they've been given excuse to kind of project, and a lot of kind of venues and pathways to project that out into the world. And one of them is what we're seeing on college campuses, right? That's what's happening. I don't think is so much even anti-Semitism. We just had a meeting about this here in DC. I'm on a task force, and it's not anti-Semitism really. They don't even really, I think, know the history of the Middle East, a lot of them. It's anti-Western, it's anti-Christian. This is just the new BLM. And it happens to be a lot of women that are joining the movement. I don't, again, they've been, whether it's the woke mind virus, I think it's, they don't like themselves as women.
Now, you obviously, I need to give everyone a little background. Jennifer used to be one, right? So she knows what she's talking about here. Now, this may or may not apply to you, but do you get the impression there was a parenting failure somewhere? I'm not saying they all had bad parents or something like that. Maybe they did all have bad parents, but did you get the impression that dad failed these ladies at some point, or mom failed these ladies, or it just is, you know, society is what it is. Young women are impressionable. You go off to college, you come back a nutball. Did you get the impression there's parenting failure here?
I do. And I think what my generation has done, I am Gen X, I think we've overcorrected for the distant parent, for the father that wasn't around, right? That whose job it was to just go to work and bring in money and support the family financially without maybe being there for the girls in the way little girls need, which is to be adored, to be loved, to be cherished. And if little girls don't have that growing up, if they don't feel their daddy loves them, right, and is there for them, I think they're going to go look for that out in the world. And that happened to be a little bit of my scenario. My dad was a great dad. He provided, he paid my way through undergraduate university. He just wasn't around a lot. And so I think the other thing I point to is like the nature of women, right? We tend to be more nurturing, compassionate, and I think the left takes advantage of that. And I was a very sensitive child, and I felt for people in pain, and I don't like to see people in pain. So the left does a good job on pulling those heartstrings, but I was also looking for like a daddy. I was looking for a father figure in my life, and I fell into kind of cultish sort of yoga groups and spirituality groups and all those things you hear about in like Los Angeles in the West, they're there. And I think whether it's conscious or unconsciously, they prey on women with insecurities who are just unsure of themselves. And I see this in, like I said, I wrote another piece about kind of the appearance of these college protesters and what they look like. They're not particularly attractive. They are wearing clothes that I've just, you know, it's like they have no concern for their appearance at all or their health. And
yeah, I don't want to interrupt, but actually I wanted to ask you on that point, Jennifer, why are they, and I'm really not trying to be as insulting as I normally am, why are so many of them fat and or ugly? Is it a chicken or the egg thing? Is this a young lady who maybe has felt the rejection of men, the rejection of society, and so she's found other women in that same place? Or is it so many years of bitterness? I mean, bitterness ages you worse than a carton a day of Marlboro Reds. What is it that does that? I'm really genuinely not trying to be mean, but you look at one of these feminist rallies, it's not exactly a bunch of women that look like you. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I wrote about this and kind of, in that piece in the Federalist, the beginning of it was, you know, I'm not on exactly the ugly side of the scale, but I did have a lot of insecurities about how I looked because I was in front of the camera. So I was always worried about how I looked and my appearance and not fitting into my business, which was in Hollywood, which was in the fitness business. So I always felt like I needed to be thinner and I needed to look a certain way according to society's standards. I mean, I do think that that's there. So there's got to be a balance between putting beautiful women on the cover, and that's okay because we appreciate beauty and we want to see those things, and then telling little girls that they all have to look like that, right? That this is taking care of yourself is a good. It is a virtue. We want to be healthy. We want to work with the gifts that God has given us and the body that God has given us. But we don't have to look like supermodels. But when we don't look like supermodels, let's cultivate the other virtues in us, whether that's our intelligence, our artistic abilities, or our whatever it might be that make us powerful. And we're still women. We still have the biological tendencies of women to nurture and be compassionate. I think women play such a big role in this. And if we can find women that are truly empowered in their own biology and the power of being the life-giving sex, then we can, and not kind of project any anger or any kind of frustration or disappointment we have from failed relationships, whatever they may be, onto the world. We really have a chance to change the society, change the culture. But I really think the left's done a great job at finding these women that are disillusioned, that don't like the way they look, that are insecure like I was, that just don't have good role models, and they get sucked into this. And it makes them feel good because they found their tribe, right? Like that's a big that was a big tool in these spiritual communities I was in. It's like, we're your family now. We're your chosen family. And I was like, no, my family is my family. You're my friends. And I choose to hang around with you because I like you. But let's not get it twisted. My family is my family, And so they kind of separate you from any historical background, from any cultural lineage, and from any patriotic pride in nation, right? Like, we are American. We should be proud. Sure, we have things to work on, but this is a great place to live. I've traveled all over the world. I'm always happy to come back here. And, when you instill a hatred for kind of yourself, it's easy to hate other people and project on the world. That's what I see happening. I saw this video of, I don't know if you saw this, I'm sure you did, the baby that was pulled straight from its mother and put on the chest of a transgender man. I saw that last night and I have never been so enraged, upset, heartbroken. All of these emotions came flooding into me, and it was just like, what is going on? Because you felt that baby wanted its mother. It didn't. And I don't understand how anyone looks at that and says that's okay. And the people that are looking at that and saying that's okay are mostly women.